Welcome back to the Pats Podcast. I'm your host, Philip Hensler, and together, we're going to explore different facets of athletic training, our colleagues, and their stories. So stick around. Let's be better athletic trainers. Welcome back to the Pats Podcast. We're still in Hershey, Pennsylvania at the Pats Convention. Right now, I get the pleasure of talking with Mike Ludwikowski. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. This is
First try.
Right. First try on this stream.
That's right.
So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the profession, and real quick, currently where you're working now.
Okay, well, currently I live and work for the last 32 years in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, running the Outreach Athletic Training Program for UPMC Williamsport, or UPMC Susquehanna. But I got into the athletic training profession way back in 1981, and actually, let's say 1978.
Okay.
As a sophomore in college at East Stroudsburg University. And funny story, if you don't mind quickly, I was working in there as a football player in the athletic training room as a work-study job. And with that work-study job, we treated and helped assist the injured athletes. And from that, I really was impressed with the athletic training staff back then that ran the training room. It was John Thatcher, Mert Shane, and Lois Wagner, and they were incredible. And the respect they got from the athletes and the way they helped people, I really liked it. So I took a class, a care and prevention class. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the story is that when I was getting ready to tape my first ankle, a beam of light came into the room and landed on my hands, and Mark Anderson's ankle, who's a retired athletic trainer now, and who was with the Phillies for 30-some years. But bottom line, the light shined upon us. We heard angels sing, which the radio was on. Could have been. And I knew that was my profession. So I grabbed the roll of tape and started and haven't stopped.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It's a divine plan right there.
That's what I like to think.
So how have you seen the profession change? I mean, you developed an outreach program here in Williamsport.
Yes.
And Central PA is pretty barren. So, just bringing that resource to the area.
Yes.
What were some of the challenges, and how have you seen the profession change since you started?
Well, since we started the program in 1990, it was literally introducing athletic training to school boards, teachers, and administrators.
Right, because they probably didn't have experience with it in the past.
There was one certified athletic trainer working in the school district at the time, and he was a hired teacher who covered up at Williamsport High School. And another one further down the road, Jackie George, who's here this weekend, who worked at Jersey Shore, and that was it. And that was the only experience the whole county had with athletic training. So I started a weekly visitation program at each of these high schools for free, of course, and we went in and we evaluated injuries once a week. And myself and a couple other athletic trainers in this small sports medicine center in the basement of Williamsport Hospital. And we would visit and we'd say, maybe we need to do this visit twice a week. Well, from twice a week, we went in and we wanted to progress the injuries, and then we started saying, well, how do we get weights? How do you get weights in this school? Where can we go? These kids can start getting these injuries stronger, and from there, and then who can see these kids, and talking to the administrator, saying, if we only had someone in this building on a daily basis, your athletes would get better a lot quicker. And we started from there, and we started talking to school districts the old-fashioned way, face-to-face, board meetings, administrative meetings, meeting with coaches, and building the morale in the school, and eventually one school added on. And when that school added on, a rival school had said, well, if they have an athletic trainer, we have to have one. And so it began, and 30 years later, 16, well, at that time 16, but now we're at 18 school districts, 26 full-time athletic trainers throughout the valley, throughout the county, and beyond, and 2 small colleges, and we have 30 athletic trainers on staff, 26 full-time, 34, maybe even more than that, 30, I would say 32 with part-time people, and we're very proud of it. And the program's grown, the staff's great, and now everyone has an athletic trainer. So I'm very proud of that.
That's one thing I love about Pennsylvania, the acceptance of athletic trainers and just the prolificness of us in the secondary school setting.
Yes.
And I think we're one of the highest states in the union.
I think we are, and we're still not done because,
it's still like 80%, right?
It is, and there's still some
somewhere,
school
yeah.
districts. Now, not in Lycoming County or beyond in Tioga County, but we do have school districts that have 2 high schools in their school district, and we share 1 athletic trainer. So we still have goals. We want to put 1 athletic trainer in every high school. It's very hard to tell a school that, your basketball team doesn't deserve one, but this school gets one. And once you get parents on board thinking that way, things happen. And we're still moving forward with that. So, and then the next wave is going to be middle schools.
Yep.
Because if you're a good athletic trainer at the high school level, they have younger brothers and sisters, and they want to be taken care of too. And that's exciting.
I always loved working at a school that had a strong middle school athletic training program, because then the freshmen coming into the high school already know the routine.
Correct.
Already know that what an injury is and how to ask for help, and are conditioned to be like, okay, I don't feel well, I'm going to go see the athletic trainer and I'm going to listen.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. There's injuries and there's pain, and my quote is, pain is relative, and relatives are a pain. So, so if there are any of them listening, sorry, but that's true. We all know that. But anyway, but it is, pain is relative. But you have to educate kids about pain, and what pain is, what hurt is, what discomfort is, and
that
once
that was always one of the fun parts of the job is teaching kids how to be injured.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because a lot of things they can play with, and a lot of things, they need to have attention, and they need to give it a rest and get better. So you're right. But athletic training has really grown in the county, and now we're in that electronic age of electronic medical recording, and which takes a little more time. And for the younger athletic trainers, that are just out, they pick it up quickly. They know how to do it. They do it better than me, and they teach me how to do things, which I find is fantastic. And but again, that's the evolution of athletic training. It's still, though, a great profession where the relationships that are built in schools between coaches, athletes, and graduating athletes and returning athletes, that all our staff are proud of, and it's a wonderful thing.
If you had to boil it down to a statement, what's your favorite part about being an athletic trainer?
I'd say that's a tough one, because there's so many
aspects of it, yeah.
Yeah, so many avenues to go. I would just say the best part of athletic training has to be just simply the relationships. Relationships with everyone, whether it's athletes that never get hurt or athletes who've been hurt, and relationships with coaches. It makes it easy to go to work that day when you have good relationships, and that's probably the best part.
That's awesome. Do you have any? So you're obviously a program director.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for the young professionals coming out of college and getting into the field? What's one piece of advice you wish you had when you were starting?
When I was starting out, I think the best piece of advice is, and again, it might involve, the relationships, but it's communication. It's speaking and feeling free to speak to the coaches. If you're a young athletic trainer, speaking to the coaches, speaking to athletic directors, sharing what you see as a professional, what maybe that school or that team's needs are, and then communicate, and then listening to them. Because don't be quick to answer, you have to listen. And you have to, understand they were there ahead of you. You have to give them. You owe to give them that kind of respect, and listen and find out more about them. But when you see something that needs to be changed, corrected, that create that relationship and have the confidence to say, hey, we need to do it this way. Have we ever tried it that way? That's the big thing, I think.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, appreciate you coming by, sharing your story with me.
Absolutely.
I have one last question. It's one we
Sure.
ask everyone. Could be a little deep at times, but in your opinion, what does it mean to be an athletic trainer?
I think what it means to be an athletic trainer is well, that's a good question. Let me think. To be a good athletic trainer, again, you have to have great communication skills, but you have to have an understanding of people, and you have to have such an appreciation for athletics and for athletes. It's the only profession that I know of that you're trained to identify injuries that happened. And to do that, you have to learn to understand the human body before it's injured. And that's physically and now emotionally and mentally. You have to get to know your athletes. You have to get to know who they are when they're healthy. You have to understand the roles they play in a group. And when they become injured, what persona they take on. Do they change who they are? And how are you going to handle that person when they're hurt? But you have to get to know them before they're hurt. And that's the biggest thing, I think. And that's a huge asset to athletic training. You know, again, I've been in this profession a long time. I've had the opportunity to work with youth athletes from age 10 to professional athletes in their 30s and slightly older. Not necessarily much older, but and it's getting to know your athletes. And we have that. We have that ability. We're trusted. We're trusted by coaches and athletes in locker rooms and training rooms, and that's something that many professions don't have. And because of that trust, you know, it's something that we earned. I think we that's a great asset, and we have to embellish it, but yet understand and respect that, and be, you know, make great decisions because they've given us that trust. And I think that's athletic training.
I love it.
Yeah.
All
right.
I think you hit it.
I appreciate it. I think I love the podcast, and thanks for letting me be
so
part of your show. And
thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And enjoy the rest of the convention.
I will. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Well, this brings us to the end of another fantastic episode of the Pats Podcast. If you liked what we did here, please remember to like and consider subscribing to the episodes. Leave a comment if you have any questions, or you want to hear any topics, or if you want to become involved in helping with the podcast. Until next time, I'm Philip Hensler, and this was the Pats Podcast.